It's a tool. It's a tool that needs to be used. That can be used. It doesn't need to be used. It can be used. It's not always used at its best potential, and but it has to be directed. It's just a tool that you can use to make something better. Now, there's something to be said about a completely optic and analog approach. And I think Blade Runner 1, of course, is the reason, the most inspiring thing I saw back in the day that really got me onto the process, and I think Nolan would love and does love that movie itself, because there is no CGI and everything, it was done optically, and it was all miniatures and good lighting and clever photography, and we love that. As compers, we love that. We don't want unnecessary CG either. No one does. Or unnecessary VFX or post-production if you want, but it's a tool that you can use to your advantage. If you don't like the results that technology brings, you don't have to use it, or you could use it differently from the way it's being used that you don't like, so it's not a good or bad inherently. I think the AI moment that we're living right now, AI as a basic technology is a little trickier. And it's not as direct as saying it's a tool, because it's such a base technology. But essentially, that is the point. It's a tool that you can use. Whether you should use it or not, that's a different story. And if you don't have to, if you want to, you can, and you can make it invisible. There are movies that do have CGI, computer generated, like pixels generated by software, not photographic. And you wouldn't tell. You probably couldn't tell. So
it's funny, movies like Revenant is a great one. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, massive scenes. It's like, wow, they did that in one take, let alone CGI bears, and and I'll just say that as one example. But like watching that film, I had kind of that idea in my head of, let's say, my father-in-law being like, see, that's a real movie, there's no CGI, and I'm just like waiting for the credits to be 5 minutes of, but it's like the art department or anything else. It's people creating elements that go into a film.
It's not easy. Good VFX, good CGI is not easy. And anyone who thinks it is, and anyone that uses it to solve the problems that they maybe created in lack of pre-production, or because of how things go on set, and because, this being on set, a shoot day manifests itself. There's very little steering control that you have once you're on it, I think. But it's a tool that you can use intensively. You can use it. It can be your friend. It's a technology. It's not good or bad in itself. What we're experiencing now, I see more and more. I think superhero burnout, or superhero burnouts, and I think we're desensitized a lot. And we expect cameras to go like this, and we're just going to shut off at one point. How many of those can you watch? Maybe younger generations prefer that to older generations usually, and that's fine. Spectacle versus being grounded and being relatable, and nothing screams realism more than a plausible camera, and very few cameras are plausible in the VFX shots in Marvel movies, and I think because they're trying to do a different thing, so it's a tool that you can direct, that you need to direct, you have to direct. It's not easy. And I'm sure, Cameron in Avatar, it takes 10 years for him to make movies like that, because he spends 7 years of those writing and going through the art department's concept art and saying yes and no. And because that's the legwork. And then CGI can be, you can like the movie or not. And that's not what we're talking about. The CGI can be spectacular because it has depth and thought and very careful direction, and but that's what you're doing. Then if you're a person like Nolan, or like other directors like him who do not rely on CG and make a point of doing that, that's a choice they make. If there has been any demonization of CG recently, I think it's misplaced. I think it's pointing at the wrong thing. It's not a race. At who uses less CG. It's a race as to who uses it better, who is able to direct something that they can't see, and without seeing the final thing, without seeing everything they don't want, and until they see the one that they want. So it's not easy. It's not an easy thing. It's not supposed to be easy. And you notice when a client it could be a film or a TV or a commercials client. They think it's easy. You notice by the speech patterns, and you notice by the urgency or the idea that some seem to have, that they're quick changes. And you can argue both sides. If something is done properly, it's not easy, but it should come. But the process could be, the art process, the artistic process, the taste involved, and how do you communicate with words and reference what you want. That is the difficult side. It's not the technological side, it's just the directorial side. That's the hard bit.